Brandon Moreno versus Kai Kara-France 2 takes place this weekend in the people's main event of UFC 277, and I can't wait for this matchup. As I said, the people's main event, I believe people are very excited about this matchup, not just because they're big fans of Moreno or big fans of Kai Kara-France. I just feel as though there are certain matchups in certain divisions where you just look at the two people that are fighting each other and you know it's going to be an amazing contest. I truly believe this is going to be the fight of the night 100%. I think this is going to be an absolute scrap, going all the 5 rounds, a true classic of the flyweight division 100%. I think we could see something quite similar to Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 1. I don't want to jinx it too much. Maybe it'll be more like the trilogy rather than the first fight, because the first fight is very hard to match in terms of a quality of a entertaining fight. But either way, this is a massive matchup, a rematch a long time in the making. Not too long of a time in the making, but both men have evolved massively since that first fight, changed their games a couple of times, beat a lot of other people in the division, and now they're back fighting each other. Should there really be an interim world championship? No. Not really. Figueiredo fought at the start of this year. He's ready to come back in like October, November, so there shouldn't really be an interim world championship. However, I am kind of done, like, arguing, like, oh, disrespect for the champ, and, man, how disrespectful is this to have an interim belt? We are in a time right now in the sport where top contenders would rather do anything but fight each other and earn a title shot, so whatever gets these top contenders to match up against each other in the headline or co-headline position of some of these pay-per-views, I'm all up for it. I do believe that Brandon Moreno is going to win this matchup. I really do. I think Kai Kara-France has a really good shot of winning. I really do believe Kai Kara-France is an extremely underrated flyweight prospect. I think he really is. I think people do underrate him massively, and he's been underrated his entire career. And for the last 3 fights of his career, I think he's been massively underrated, and that's why I've picked him to win all 3 of his last fights. I picked him to beat Rodrigo Bontorin by KO in the first round. I said he would defeat Cody Garbrandt by KO in the first round, and he was an underdog in that matchup as well. He was a massive underdog against Askar Askarov. I said he would finish Askarov at the end of the second round or the third round in the second half of the fight and get the upset victory. He ended up getting an upset by decision and showed how amazing he is, because let's not forget Askar Askarov, even though I believe that Brandon Moreno should have beaten him and got the decision win, Askar Askarov, you know, he fought to a draw with Brandon Moreno. I feel like Brandon Moreno, of course, should have won, but 2 of the rounds were very close. And I just feel as though it kind of speaks to the styles that these 2 gentlemen have and who they do good against. I feel as though Brandon Moreno does exceptionally well against wild strikers and strikers in general. And when we see a lot of the grapplers in the division, they seem to do quite well against him and make it a bit more of a tough fight for him and stuff like that. But since then, Brandon Moreno's massively improved his grappling and stuff like that. But we see like the Royval able to beat a guy like Kai Kara-France and stuff like that in a wildfire fight, but Moreno gets it 1 over on Royval, of course by injury, but still, he was winning the matchup before then anyway. But Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara-France, interesting matchup. I just feel as though Kai Kara-France is looking better at striking than maybe he really is compared to the top strikers of the flyweight division. I don't know if he would outstrike a guy like Alejandro Pantoja. I really don't. I don't think he'd be submitted by him, but Pantoja, of course, has the chance to submit a guy like Brandon Moreno, maybe. But Kai Kara-France is just all wrestling defense. If you're putting him in there against a guy who can grapple, like Rodrigo Bontorin or Askar Askarov, he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, get himself out of danger if they do have his back or something like that, because he's just nearly unsubmittable, basically, unless Royval hits him with like a spinning elbow and rocks him badly. But either way, I feel as though Kai Kara-France is the anti-wrestler, and when he fights them on the feet, they're wrestlers. They're not really stand-up fighters. You know what I'm saying? When you look at Moreno on the feet against Askar Askarov, I believe he dropped him with a head kick at one moment in that fight. Like, Moreno does well on the feet, and I think he's a much better striker than Askarov, a much better striker than Rodrigo Bontorin, a much better striker than Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt has no striking technique whatsoever. He's purely based on physicality and speed. His technique is very lackluster, and I feel like Brandon Moreno's boxing is something that he's improved massively, and I want to mention this as well. Brandon Moreno, the one weapon that he utilized against Kai Kara-France was his jab. he had a very good jab in that first fight. And you can sit here and say he's improved in this department of the game, in that department, but what moves have they improved? To me, Kai Kara-France throws shots very similarly than what he used to before. Like, he swings shots, he comes in with combinations and stuff like that, he throws shots over the top of other people's shots and stuff like that, and he's kind of always done that. But sometimes he'll get tired, and I think his conditioning has improved. His dedication to the game has improved and stuff like that. Maybe his timing has improved. I don't think his power has necessarily improved. I don't believe that's the case. He beat Roger Bontorin. Cool. You beat that guy. Cody Garbrandt is chinless, especially at 125 pounds. It's why I picked Kara-France to KO him in the first round. I don't see Kara-France being able to KO Brandon Moreno. I think they're going to get into a scrap. And when I'm thinking about individual techniques that they've improved, I'm thinking Brandon Moreno's jab has massively improved. He dropped Figueiredo with a jab in their second fight that they had, and that led to his victory later on in that matchup. He hurt Brandon Royval with a jab at one moment in their fight as well. His jab is like his best weapon recently, and he was finding it a lot on Deiveson Figueiredo, and he's just a lot better off of his lead hand in general. Like, even just his lead left hook that he goes for occasionally was landing a lot on Deiveson Figueiredo as well, and other people in that division. I feel as though Moreno's lead hand has gotten way better, and he almost entirely won the fight based on that against Kai Kara-France. He was kicking the arms of Kara-France to make sure that Kara-France couldn't throw the right hand as much, and just pinning the forearms to the body of Kara-France, making him not want to throw. Charles Jourdain does this a lot to his opponents, or at least used to against opponents like Doo Ho Choi. He even shattered his forearm with a kick to the arms and stuff like that, but I feel as though Brandon Moreno massively improved his jab. That was his main way of succeeding against Kara-France in their first fight, other than the kicks as well. I think Moreno's improved his leg kicks and stuff like that. I think Kara-France is going to give him a real tough fight. I really do. But Moreno's still a young, improving guy. He just switched gyms, and he's now training with Jeff Molina and other guys and Tim Elliott and stuff like that. So he's got some really good flyweight training partners right now to work with. And I feel as though he's going to get this one done. I really do. I think he's going to win it by decision. I think it's going to be a fight of the night 100%. I think it's going to be a great scrap. I just don't see Kara-France finishing Moreno, and I can see him landing a little bit too much early on Moreno. And I can see Moreno rallying back in the third, fourth, and fifth to get himself a 48-47 unanimous decision win. Of course, Moreno's been 5 rounds a bunch of times in his career now. Even before he went 5 rounds with Figueiredo, he'd already gone 5 rounds with guys like Sergio Pettis. I believe they were like the main event of UFC Fight Night Mexico City a very long time ago. Whereas Kai Kara-France, he's never had that experience. He's been at 3-rounders. He's not going to entirely know how to pace himself the same way a Brandon Moreno can pace himself in those types of matchups. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel as though Moreno's got the experience advantage going into a championship bout. This is the big moment for Kai Kara-France. All his other teammates like Volkanovski and Israel Adesanya are achieving their belts, and now it's Kara-France's turn, and he's always kind of been the one that no one really paid attention to, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders regarding that as well. Whereas Brandon Moreno, he's been here before. He's been 5 rounds with a champ. Very close fights with a champion as well. Beat the champion, Deiveson Figueiredo. Now he's fighting for an interim belt. This is just like another thing for him. Like, he's been the co-main event. He's been the main event. Now he's taking on a co-main event spot against Kai Kara-France. Mentality's going to be different. He's going to be a lot more confident. And I can just see there being some moments in the first round where Kai Kara-France is going to knock Moreno off balance a couple of times. And I think Moreno's going to take some big shots. And Kara-France is going to keep landing some decent shots. I don't see much grappling going on whatsoever here. And I think that's where a lot of opponents make mistakes against Kai Kara-France. He's got such underrated grappling defense that they sort of like burn themselves out trying to get him to the ground and trying to force a takedown situation, and then he escapes that position, and now they're all gassed out, and their legs are gassed out from getting a body triangle, and their arms are gassed from trying to squeeze a rear naked choke that isn't quite in. And then when they end up back on the feet with Kai Kara-France, he's able to sort of pressure them and take over as the fight goes on. Whereas with Moreno, I don't think he's going to play the grappling game. I don't believe so. I think he's just going to stick that jab out there, move for 5 rounds, go to the body, throw a whole bunch of kicks and head kicks and body kicks and stuff like that. And I think they're just going to sort of scrap with each other for a long time. But I think Moreno's going to be a bit more effective and a bit more cardio. He's going to be smarter with his cardio management over a 5-rounder. I can see him building as the fight goes on, getting knocked off balance once, twice in the first round, getting back up. Kara-France rushes him against the cage, starts swinging like a maniac, and Moreno sort of covers up and moves and stuff like that. Then the second round's a little bit closer, but Kara-France is still landing the big shots. Then the third round is really competitive, but Moreno starts getting the better of Kara-France towards the end and starts getting some momentum for himself in that third round. Then things start to change. Then the fourth round, Moreno starts having a pretty good round across the board, but it's still quite scrappy. He hurts Kara-France at one moment and starts landing some good shots there. And then round 5, I can just see Moreno schooling Kara-France on the feet over the 5 minutes, winning the round very convincingly and taking him to school in the striking department. I like Brandon Moreno here. Kara-France is good, but I feel as though we're judging his striking improvements based on his grappling improvements. I hope you know what that means. His grappling has improved so much that now we're even getting to see him strike with grapplers because they can't grapple with him. They can't keep him down over 3 rounds. So he's looking good on the feet. But even still, Askarov in that fight, listen, Kara-France did not school Askarov. It was a very close fight as the fight went on. Moreno's a younger guy as well, by the way, and it's not like Kara-France hasn't had his battles. Like, he's had a lot of wars himself, and when I see people just stand with Kara-France, like Paver, they find openings on him. And even Askarov in the third round and stuff like that of that fight, he was catching Kara-France with good shots. Round 3 was a very close round. I gave it to Kara-France because in the event of equal amounts of damage and stuff like that, he landed a couple of more shots and we had to go to the volume and stuff like that, and that's where that came into it. But Askarov was landing really good shots in round 3 on Kara-France. Counter hooks, right hands as Kara-France was swinging, trying to come in and land some big shots himself. I can see Moreno catching him with some of those counter hooks as Kara-France is trying to pressure him. And I think Moreno's extremely underrated. Got an inch of reach to work with as well on the feet. Much taller as well. Or not much taller, but a little bit taller than Kara-France. Going to give him some leg reach to work with as well. That'll help him in the leg kick department of this matchup. And throw in some head kicks at range and stuff like that. I really see Brandon Moreno getting this one done. But if Kara-France wins, I actually do believe if Kara-France wins, I'll pick him against Figueiredo. I do. I think Kara-France, I don't think Moreno beats Figueiredo. Even if he wins this matchup and goes to war with Kara-France and wins, I'm picking Figueiredo to beat Moreno in their fight. I think Figueiredo's got him, and I think the power's just a bit too much. And if I see Moreno take another 5 rounds of punishment, I'm just going to side with Figueiredo beating him in that quadrilogy that they have, which will be a massive fight. But with Kara-France, if he beats Moreno, with his style, I think it'll be a more interesting matchup with him and Figueiredo. The highlight reels will be cool in the build-up. But I think Kara-France's striking style with lunging in and closing the distance and catching people while they lean out the way of shots and stuff like that, he'll catch Figueiredo on the chin and hurt him badly. And I think actually Kara-France would finish Deiveson Figueiredo early on. I really do. I think he's got that ability. So styles make fights. I just think Moreno's got Kara-France's number. And we see a repeat of the first fight that they had that extended over 5 rounds. So instead of 2 rounds to 1 for Moreno, we see more like a, let's say, 3 rounds to 2. Maybe a 10-8 close to in the 5th. Who knows? I think he's going to hurt Kara-France bad as the fight goes on. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Winner of this fight is, of course, next for Deiveson Figueiredo. And then we can have Alejandro Pantoja. If he beats Alex Perez, then that can be the next matchup. If Perez wins, maybe we can do the loser of this fight versus Perez. But if Pantoja wins on this card, I guess he can be like the short notice replacement guy for the Moreno or Kara-France fight with Figueiredo coming up at the end of the year. Other than that, the loser of this one can start to look to take on, I don't know, who's coming up at flyweight right now that we need to sort of get towards the top. There's a couple of people right now. I don't know. I don't want to say Manel Kape because I think he's actually ranked a little bit lower than we expect. And I know that Matt Schnell called out Mateus Nicolau. But I'd almost want to see just Mateus Nicolau get the jump up anyway. So we'll see. Or Brandon Royval, Kara-France rematch. I'm down to see that one. That'd be a good matchup. I reckon they're going to do I reckon they're going to do Royval versus Askarov, in my opinion. Maybe Kara France Moreno loser can take on the winner of that matchup. But I say let's get some fresh blood up the top. But I don't know. It's tough right now at flyweight. We need to get some movement from the guys. Like Sumit Dwerji failed. Manel Kaps had some problems, but he's back on track now. But he's pulled out of a couple of fights. We'll see if Amir Albazi wins his next one. And if he does, we'll see what we do from there. But yeah, interesting matchups to come. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip, I'll see you later. Brandon Moreno, 48-47. One judge, 48-46. Based on a dominant 5th round. Toodle Pip, goodbye.